Schilling, and I'm the Director of Client Services with RevMax. If you've participated in one of our webinars before, you probably recognize me. I typically am on here, but I do have a special guest that I brought with me today, and this is Desiree Garcia. So Desiree is basically, she heads up RevMax. She has been with us since the beginning. She and I are both the co-founders of RevMax. So we started RevMax about 8 years ago at this point. And so I bribed her to come on with me this time because she's a wealth of knowledge. She's been doing this for about nearly 20 years. I've been doing revenue management in the hospitality vacation rental space just like she has for about 23 years. And we've been through basically all of the ups and downs of different economic cycles, market shifts. And so I thought that it was really important that we bring her on here along with me so that we could really have a discussion. Now, most of the RevMax webinars we've done in the past, we've had a lot of like hands-on doing demos in the system and using the software. This time, we wanted to do something just a little bit different, considering everything that's happening within the marketplace, all of the different shifts, all of the ups and downs and stress that people are having. We just wanted to be here to be able to be responsive to that, to be a support system for you and answer questions. You will see that there is a chat, and we will be using that chat. If you would like to just drop in any questions that you have, anything that you would like to share with the group about experiences in your own market, shifts that you're seeing, changes, we would love to hear about that. We can also answer any of your questions real time as you have them. Just feel free to drop that into that chat box. This is a recorded webinar, and so this will be available to you afterward if you would like to rewatch it or if you would like to share it with anyone. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so some of the questions that we have brought with us here to this webinar are going to be what's going on in the markets. So for those of you who might not be as familiar with RevMax, RevMax has two different divisions within it. We are a revenue management software solution that was built for revenue managers to use. So this is not just a one size fits all kind of software. It is a software that has many different options in it so that you can use the finesse of a revenue manager to really get a market edge. So this isn't just going to be a set it, forget it sort of tool. It is definitely one that has many different pieces that can be layered on with each other so that you can have that sort of creativity that you would need in order to, get ahead within your marketplace. So that is the software of RevMax, the revenue management software. We also have a professional services division. The goal of the professional services division is to provide fractional revenue management support and training to the users of the software. So what does that mean? So we have two different training programs for basically beginners to the software or beginners to revenue management called a RevUp course or a bootcamp course. RevUp is 4 sessions and bootcamp is 10. The goal of both of these courses is to either get you a quick start in the RevUp course into the software or for the bootcamp to give you more of a comprehensive step-by-step through the system, one-on-one with you and your teams, so that we can help you to launch into the system with the most effective strategies already in place. In addition to that, the revenue management professional services team does portfolio management. So think of this as having like your own stock market portfolio manager that would manage your stock inventory. It works very similarly in that we have a revenue manager that manages multiple portfolios and provides that fractional revenue management support for you hands-on in your system and guidance. It can be used as something as just a learning tool. So if you're just getting set up with the system and you need some guidance for a short period of time, we can provide that guidance and that hands-on for you. Or we can do something more long-term if you just need a plug-in team member in order to take care of the revenue management for you. The reason why I'm telling you all of this about portfolio management is because it's very important for you to understand that we are in the trenches every single day in many markets across the world. We have international markets as well. So we get to see how each of these different types of markets are moving from coast to coast, north and south. We we have the data and we have the insights into all of this. So we're really able to track from a week-to-week basis any sort of changes that are happening, and also the best practices that our team is using in order to work within what's happening, or the creativity of their property management companies and some of the things that their marketing teams or that they are putting into place in order to get ahead of what is happening. So that puts us in kind of a unique position where we have the ability to kind of get ahead of some of what is maybe something that you're experiencing in your market. So we wanted to talk about what's going on in the market right now. What are we hearing on our side? What are we hearing from some of our team members and our own clients? What are the possible effects on travel for all of these different market shifts? How can I avoid the downsides of these market shifts? What opportunities could these market shifts create? What key performance indicators can I use to monitor effects on my company and market? And what RevMax tools and strategies can I use to get an edge? And then, of course, who can I reach out to for help? Because, of course, when there's any volatility in the marketplace and we're just unsure, sometimes it's nice to just have somebody to reach out to, ask a question of, and maybe bounce some ideas off of, and we are here to help. Okay, so what's going on in the market? Understanding this market shift. So Des, I'm going to actually ask you if you can kind of talk a little bit about what your clients are saying are happening in their marketplaces.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everyone for jumping on with us today. So, collectively, there is the only thing that's been constantly changing year over year is change, right? We had a COVID era. We had a growth in supply era. We now have the effects of administrative changes and things along those lines. So what are we seeing? We're consistently seeing different changes year over year. And what does that mean for you guys? So ultimately, what we're seeing, I'm going to kind of just talk high level and then have that we can drill down and apply to each of your markets. But high level, what is happening? Well, with the administrative changes, right, there have been a lot of government layoffs. What does that mean? If you look at the industry in general, in the hotel space specifically, you typically will have government business and contracted business, right? That's government travel, which is a layer of base business, which then means that gives a certain level of occupancy to the marketplace or to the hotel space, and then they can make up their revenue with the other different channel segments, whether that's leisure or group or OTA business, right? You also have that same layer of base business within the airlines as well. So when the airlines have certain government travel, that allows the same strategy, right? You have a base business, and then now the rest of the revenue will come from a mix of sales. So without that base business, what is that doing? That is keeping rates high because they don't have the occupancy to have lower ADR, if you will. So that's impacting flights, domestic travel collectively is going to be down organically. So if you hear of any statistics saying, hey, domestic travel is down, well, yes, that's because government travel is down. The administrative changes for international market share, right? If a lot of your business was coming from the international share and now there's some hurdles on that aspect, that's going to play into effect. Where the customers are coming from, Canada, Europe, the UK, right? If they're going to Mexico, if you're a Mexico-based company and a good portion of your business was US-based, what are the hurdles that the US market has put on into getting into Mexico? What are the flight increases doing to get your traveler to your destination, especially if you're not a drive-to market, right? We hear a lot of this usually on the gas prices, but now it's the airline prices. in addition to economic uncertainty, that also impacts the consumer confidence of booking in advance, especially if they're unsure if they're even going to have funds to go into that destination and take that vacation. So with all of that, right, what is that translating to you? So what we're seeing collectively across the board is a shorter booking window. We are seeing folks not book peak time as much. We're seeing probably a 60-day booking window, right? Everybody's seeing, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of folks are seeing spring, fall. However, there's other reasons for that too, because you have Easter, right? Easter's farther along into April. So that's going to stretch out that spring break business. So we really want to understand March and April as a whole to try to capture that March revenue last year. Then as we go into the summertime, we have probably peak time is, that June 15th to August 15th timeframe is really struggling to stay on pace with last year. And a lot of that is because consumers are waiting to make that reservation. Why are they waiting? Part of that is, again, because they may not have a job. Part of that is policies that we've also implemented, right? Are we putting our guests in a position to say, look, if you book right now, how much money do you have to give me out of pocket? If you book right now, are you locked in for something, 4 months out, 3 months out? So I think organically too, we're artificially, organically putting our consumer to make sure 100% that they're going to come. Once they know that, which is usually within about 60 days, we're starting to see those transactions, which is what the markets are seeing, right? That's why no matter what you're doing for price, it's not moving the needle because it's more of that uncertainty or certainty that they're actually going to come.
I was
So,
actually gonna add to that a lot of clients of mine actually had a really good advance start on the year. And so the change in that contraction of the booking window was pretty quick, right? It was like it really did hit there toward the end of February and then through the month of March. So they had a pretty decent advance amount of revenue on the books, pretty stable in comparison to last year. So we're always trying to give the data context by benchmarking it off of something like last year. And it really did seem to be aligned with what last year was doing. And then it was a steep contraction there in that booking window in March. So I don't know if anybody else has been feeling that too, where in March, all of a sudden things started to kind of slow. But where the people were booking into really was like Desiree was saying, if the booking window was typically 90 days out, you were getting it within 60 days, 30 days, or maybe even like within a couple of weeks, because people didn't want to let go of the money until they were sure they were going to be able to do the travel.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And so, it's just going to constantly change. What are the hurdles? And that's where it's important to understand, right? Where do your guests come from? Where do they travel from? And it's not an excuse as to why the revenue is not there. It's just to understand, right? Because then what is the reaction that we have to do as PMs, as strategists, right? We have to then get more customers or get different customers. We need to remove the barriers to book amongst ourselves. So if we know that people are skeptical to book, what can we do to remove that barrier? In some cases, it has been a lesser deposit policy, right? If you're used to collecting 100%, maybe you collect 50%, right? If you're used to collecting 25%, maybe you just do a fixed dollar amount. So some of those things have been deployed into the market, into strategies, and have worked in regards to helping move the needle. It's a good time to also review cancellation policy as well. And then if you have the travel insurance, right, the cancel for any reason, those kinds of things, promote that. Let customers know that they can cancel for any reason, if they book with you, if that's a product that you have that others don't, highlight that. So I think a lot of it too is, again, it's not going to come down to price necessarily. It's going to come down to flexibility. It's going to come down to who's going to be lenient with me if something should happen. And I think ultimately it's going to come down to a fees game, right? We had the whole inclusive price when California rolled those rules out. So the junk fee. So we had that battle, right? And how do we position the product that way? And now it's policy. It really comes down to who's going to give you the most flexibility to book. Is it you or your neighbor?
Yeah. So for a lot of one of the questions we get is how is the impact on Canadian travel? We've heard from the airlines that they have revised their forecast, their earnings forecast for 2025, because there was a 70% decline in Canadian travel. We have heard anecdotally from some clients of Canadians canceling their trips for 2025. However, because of the timing of when all of that started, really a lot of the snowbirds were already in house, or they already had the deposits. Like Des said, they had gotten past the time frame where they were able to really cancel. Is reporting that some of the Canadian travel may not return in 2026. Although from the data I'm looking at, when I look at snowbirds 2025 and what's pre-booked for 2026, it actually looks pretty good. So I think because a lot of the snowbirds maybe make their reservations for 2026 while they're in-house in 25, so that they don't lose their place, a lot of those bookings were already secure. So it may be that we do end up losing some travel in 2026. I think it's something where maybe people will hold the space there at the property because they don't want to lose the one that they normally stay in, and then like sort of wait and see what happens. So as far as snowbird impact, we're not really seeing a very serious snowbird impact right now. Just kind of like that anecdotal evidence of people saying that they won't return for 2026.
Mm-hmm.
The good
And
news is we still have some time.
absolutely. And with that too, right? A lot of skeptics are going to sit on the call and be like, well, it's okay. They're not a big majority piece of my business, right? And that's fair. They're not going to make or break the bank. However, if they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, that's impactful because nobody wants to be down. Nobody goes into next year like, oh, I was only down 5%. It's like, no, we want to be up 5%, right? So every piece of business counts. So if we know now that that business may not return, now is the time to strategize for how you're going to replace it. Unless everyone's okay with just saying, oh, it's okay. We don't need that. And that's usually not the case once we get closer in and then everyone's like, how do I get this business? The best time is to react now, right? We want to know now what we can do to capture that business next Q1, next summer, in addition to this summer too, but the more advanced notice you have is usually better. You can
Yeah, and
start putting strategies into play.
the Canadian business that goes to Florida is about 60,000 travelers. So it's not as a portion, it's not an enormous portion, but it does really kind of hit heavy in that first quarter of
Mm-hmm.
2026.
Correct. Correct. And then also the East Coast market too, right? Will get impacted from out of work and consumers in that pocket as well. So then all of that base business comes down. Keep in mind, guys, if the hotels don't have the business and they start to have distressed product, that's going to pull from the vacation rental space because now is it more cost effective for a family to get 2 hotel rooms than 1 2-bedroom vacation home, right? And they'll promote the kids eat free breakfast, etc. So again, just some things to consider that a lot of times we get in our funnel and our tunnel and narrow vision of, well, it's just my destination, but it's other impacts of the economy that have a direct impact on the consumers of who comes to your destination, right?
Mhm. Yeah, the estimates of the total number of people that would be losing federal jobs are somewhere in the 146,000 range or more. And then the cancellation of the government contracts, of course, affects different markets and pockets. So that would be like pockets in Alabama or pockets in Seattle. Seattle might be a feeder market to the coast of Oregon. Of course, Virginia Beach, Ocean City, Maryland, New Jersey, Maine, New York are definitely feeders from Washington, D.C. So you do have in your data the ability to look up where do most of your guests come from so that you can start to forecast what the impacts might be if you lose a portion of those travelers. Now, we are hearing people say that they have gotten phone calls with people canceling their vacations who are from the Washington, D.C. market or who work in federal government jobs, just the fear of not knowing. So of course, we know that the reaction when there's uncertainty in the market is fight, flight, or freeze, right? So either they pull back, which is that cancellation, or they just don't spend, right? So they're just going to wait and they're going to see, and that's where you get into that contraction of the booking window where people might still come, they're just going to come late. Now I'm seeing that reaction that they're still coming, they're just coming later. And we've seen this over and over again. So I was actually in the hotel industry during the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis. Desiree was entering into the workforce. Congratulations during the GFC. It's sort of like our kids now graduating and they're entering into this. So every generation has their challenges. Um, but one of the things that we did, and even with COVID, I remember being on a webinar with you and saying, just don't take your foot off the pedal, right? Whatever you do, because people have a tendency to react by pulling back marketing, pulling back, certain expenses. And the thing we have to realize is we're still going to have a market. We're still going to have a market of people coming to travel. It may, instead of being 1,000 people per night, is our market of people coming into our marketplace that are looking for accommodations. It may go to 750 per night, but there is still going to be a market, even if that's represents a 25% decline in travel, which is, about what we're seeing as far as impacts here, 25% with travel. So if we did see that, you're still talking about 750 people per night, an enormous number of people that are looking for accommodations. So it's not that the business is going to go away, and you're going to need really effective targeted marketing strategies in order to get in front of those people. So this is where you segment your database list and you really understand what's causing group A in this list to buy, what's causing group B in this list to buy, and what's causing group C in this list to buy. And make sure that your marketing is getting in front of them. If you have the ability to do text messaging to customers, do that. I know that there are some regulations around that, and they have to opt into that sort of thing if it's not a transactional text message. So definitely make sure that you're in compliance there. But things like text messaging, would you like to add on an additional night to your stay? Oh my goodness, these are targeting the people that already have reservations with you. Would you like to arrive early? I'm going away for spring break next week. I just realized last night we get in at 10 a.m. in the morning. My vacation rental isn't ready until 4. I had to send off an email saying, oh my gosh, I need an early check-in. So people may not even realize that they want and need, and they can get this early check-in with you until a couple of days prior to arrival. So keep communicating to those guests who are already coming. Don't just presume that they've made their reservation and the story ends there. Get back in front of them. Every early check-in fee you can get, every late checkout, every extend your stay for a night at half price or whatever you can do. This is incremental revenue from the people that are already staying with you. And then getting back in front of the people who had a purchase with you in the past. So they already know that they had a great time staying in their unit. And they have memories, and you want to tap back into those memories. When I say segmenting your market, I mean your database. I mean, maybe the larger homes, you send them a piece that a marketing piece that talks about what to do with a group, or, a large family, or, houses with game rooms, large number of bedrooms, those types of things, versus the people that stay in condos and, they normally only have one or two bedrooms or something like that. You want to be sending the right marketing piece to the right person, right? So it's like if somebody went onto Airbnb and all they were ever seeing is 7 bedrooms, they'd hop off the website, right? Because it doesn't pertain to them. So same type of thing. Make sure we're speaking directly to the people. That's where you want to put your dollars now, is into that real targeted marketing. If your database, if you've been doing a really good job over the past few years with all of the extra demand with COVID, you probably have a sizable database you might not even realize that you have. And that in and of itself can equate to almost like the contributions of an OTA. So I would definitely do that.
Mhm.
What are
That's
some of the other, go ahead.
okay. So say, yeah, it comes back to kind of business practices 101, right? And that's just like, hey, it's almost like you have to start all over, right? And some of us are starting with 0 past guests. Some of us are starting, as you said, Maureen, you have a landmine of past guests, and we've never had to, right, reach out to them. We've never had to ask them to come back, because that we either had so much demand that it didn't matter. Our OTAs were overperforming for us. We were doing great. Things, again, constantly things were shifting. Things have always been changing. Even though we had more supply, there was other reasons for compression for certain markets. There were other reasons, coast to coast, we talk about. On the West Coast, right, we had more 30-night minimums be implemented. So what does that mean? Well, that means there's going to be some displacement, because those people that were going to those destinations can no longer go for 1 week, 2 weeks. So where did they go? Somewhere else. So that allowed that cost compression to other destinations. They didn't have to really work for that, right? Some of where all of the dust settles is everyone's falling into their own space. But now we're getting another hurdle in front of us, right? So we cannot take our foot off the gas, continue marketing, talk to your repeat customers, get on distribution channels. The more shelves you have, the more exposure you have, the better opportunity you have to get a conversion.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
some of those
distribution.
it's all in that revenue management ecosystem, right? You have your repeat guests, you have your direct mail that's communicating to those repeat guests, you have your distribution channels, and you have your website. Your website is your brand. Your website is your own marketplace. Like Maureen mentioned, if you have thousands of customers, get those thousands of customers back to your website. Get your team doing outbound calls to them, right? Talk to them. How many of us would love to have 1,000 direct customers, right, come and buy from an OTA, but you have that on your website, right? Is it easy to book? Is it is it the best optimized and marketed? And then what are we doing to drive more business to that brand? All of
Mhm.
those things, it's a machine. It just rinse and repeat and tweak. So if we're doing all of those things, you're on the right path. But I bet if we just kind of take a review of what everyone's doing, we're missing a few steps. And that's okay. We just need to pick them up. Pop-ups on the website are also great, because that allows you to get an email address. If you're doing a social media piece, where are they going to your website? How do I get that email? Ask them for it. Give them $10 off a booking, 10% off, $50 off, whatever the case may be. Give them a reason to give you that information. That grows your
Mhm.
database. You can easily start to see, depending upon the size of your inventory, depending upon how much marketing efforts are going into it, you can easily see 5 to 50 new customers every week dropping an email address in. Those are brand new customers. Then you market to them, right? Then you give
Mhm.
them
And
an
it's
incentive to book.
It's not, yeah, and the pop-up, I don't know if a lot of you know this, but if you're using something like MailChimp or Campaign Monitor or something like that for your email, you can preset up emails that are on what's called a drip campaign, which means that, let's say somebody goes to your website, you have a pop-up, the pop-up is actually built inside like MailChimp. It pops up on your website and says, welcome here. It has a beautiful image, and it says, we're happy to have you visiting our site. Please provide us with your email address in order to receive X amount off your stay, right? You give us your email address and we're going to provide you with this reward. They put in their email address, and then it automatically triggers a pre-set up email that's in your MailChimp to be sent off directly to that guest right away. And it provides them with, these are the things to do in the marketplace. When you're here during your stay, check these things out. These are, the link to explore our blogs or our properties, and here's your coupon, so that while you're there, you already have an incentive to book with us because you have this coupon. And then you can have another one piggyback off of there, that same person, it triggers, 3 days later, can't wait to see you here in X market, in the Outer Banks or in Florida, Orlando, or Montana. And again, here are the reasons why people come here, and here are the reasons why people love staying with us. This is what our customers say about us. And don't forget, you still have this coupon that you can use. So like reminding them, hey, remember you were looking? Now it's time for you to commit. We want you to you make sure you don't lose this coupon. So doing those types of things to really kind of get in front of your customers, those are really great, and it builds up that database that you can use over time. Midterm rentals says, I think you've actually worked with some people who do these like medium term stays of 30 nights. You want to talk a little bit about distributing to there for properties that maybe are struggling this year, or if there is contraction in the amount of stays in the marketplace, that would probably be the first to struggle?
Absolutely. So, part of getting that exposure is simply just that, getting that exposure. And what I mean by that is, a lot of folks have to say, hey, you have to stay 30 nights, right? That's a 30-night minimum rule. Okay, but what happens if I want to stay 25, 26 nights? Are we showing up if somebody's doing a search for that? Right? So we need to be flexible in that capacity. We need to be able to show up. And part of that you can do just by changing your nightly minimum within the system and still charging the same monthly rent, right? If you're on the Streamline system, they have monthly pricing. If you're on the RevMax system, what's been the fan favorite is the length of stay pricing. So, and that gets very aggressive because you can actually do 2 weeks, right? If someone just needs to stay 2 to 3 weeks, you can charge them the full price of the month. They show up for 2. You can do a block before or after their stay, depending upon what they're doing, and then, re-show the next month as well. That was one way that our RevMax customers were able to really dominate in that area, because they were able to show up for 19, 21, 22 to 29 nights, when others had a straight, if you showed up for 29 nights, you just didn't show up on distribution. So that gives you a lot of flexibility, having just flexibility and availability in general, right? Do they have to arrive on the 1st? Can they arrive on the 3rd? Do they have to arrive on a Sunday? Could you arrive on a Tuesday, right? Sometimes simply those things can really shift the needle in just getting exposure, getting more customers to your site, getting more inquiries, having conversations with customers. So I'm always going to tell you, it's price is always going to be the last thing, right? You got to get open first. You don't even know if price is an option because you're not open for customers to even see you. So get on the shelves, get open, adjust nightly minimums, adjust turn days. And you don't have to do it for all your inventory, just do it for a couple. Get confident that it works and then adjust. But we do have to be flexible. Those who are flexible, those who think outside the box, those who color outside the lines, are usually the ones who win.
And a good distribution channel for you to look into for the midterm rentals, if you're on the Streamline system, is Lively. I'm not sure if the other PMS systems have access to that, but Lively will distribute to Zillow. It will also distribute, I think, to apartments.com. And then there's, of course, Furnish Finder, where you can post a listing on there and then have them communicate with you directly. So instead of you posting all of your inventory on there, you could just take a couple of the underperformers, give them listings on there, and then you can have people contact you if they want those monthly stays. It would be a great way for you to tap into any sort of corporate travel, like the traveling nurses, even just people wanting to get away. When things are stressful, people, they need the mental health break, and if they can go away and they can stay in a property that would sit empty, maybe it would only fill for 2 nights during a low month, because it's an underperforming unit or a struggling unit. If you can fill it for 30 days with somebody who pays the equivalent of 2 weeks worth, I mean, that is an enormous win. And so, identifying which properties are likely to be the underperformers for this month, and preemptively putting them on these sites, that they're not only tapping into the short-term rental into travelers, but they're also able to tap into midterm. And, occasionally I've had people just take a long term for 9 months, and because they know that this property is going to struggle. They've been reached out to by, a local insurance company. That is also a place where you can cultivate relationships, is with the local insurance companies, local insurance agents, and just say, hey, we are here to help. Reach out to us if we can provide accommodation, for what the insurance company is willing to pay for somebody who's had a plumbing issue, their basement is flooded, they have to now get it renovated, there's mold, whatever it might be. Making sure that you have diverse ways to bring in revenue when the amount of short-term travelers has fallen. Now, Des, you mentioned something interesting about um, I think it was the something like the plus vacations might be going away, meaning like the hotels, the hotel people traveling to resorts might be slowing down. So we call that sort of like the plus vacations. So the place vacations that require, not only are you going to pay for the place where you're staying, but you're paying for the airline to get there, right? And the airline costs have gone up, and you're also paying for the car rental. And so a lot of these like resort locations may actually feel some pullback in travel, because it does require more than just paying for the place to stay. And so if there is a retraction there, we may find that the local drive to travel is really what people are looking for, a place where I can just hop in my car and I can leave from Atlanta and I can drive up to the Blue Ridge Mountains, and I can get there, in a short period of time with not spending a lot of money on gas, and I can save a lot of money, and my family still gets a great vacation. And you know what? Maybe I'll stay for a couple of extra nights because I don't have to pay for all those other things. What are some other silver linings to all of this for
Yes,
vacation rentals?
sure. So that's all part of what can we do differently, right? Because if we continue to do the same thing, we're going to continue to get the same results. And we know that the opportunity isn't the same. So we have to adjust. We have to ebb and flow within the industry, within the marketplace. So just like Maureen said, hey, if I know it takes 3 steps to get to my destination, we have to shift. We have to focus on the drive to customers. So what does that look like? Right. And a lot of that is going to come from, how do you get the message out? Right. What do I say? If as a customer, even if you're in Atlanta, where do I usually go? If I go to Orlando and go on a cruise, or if I go to Texas and hop on a train or something, what do I need? How do I get reached as a consumer? Right? If I'm in the mountains, I need to hit my surrounding cities. I may just need to adjust who I direct market to. If I know that it takes 30% of my business is flying in, I need to replace that 30% with a drive to campaign. I need to replace that 30% with another distribution channel, right? Let them work on that. I need to replace that 30% with how do I get in front of the customers? It's going to go back to that 101. I need to now educate the market on the fact that, hey, I'm here, right? How do you get to me? Why are you going to book with me versus somebody else? And making sure that we have pulled multiple levers to achieve the revenue goal. What does that mean? Go ahead. You're
It
gonna
does.
say.
You actually had a success story that really surprised me. You did some A/B testing with a marketing program, and you were shocked to find out what really mattered to people in the end. Can you tell us about that with the
Yes.
housekeeping fee?
Yes, I will. And yeah, and that's kind of part of where I was headed with you got to color outside the lines. You got to think outside the box a little bit. So we did some testing where a client was offering, right, 25% off. And we said, okay, it's a 4-night minimum during this time period, 25% off, 4-night stay. Then we also did the test of buy 3, right, get the 4th night free, which if you're on a 4-night minimum, it's the same. It's the same percentage off to the owner, if you will. So there was that scenario, which one works? Then we also did a marketing piece out that said, get a free cleaning fee, or maybe not free cleaning, because it was like $200 off your cleaning fee or something along those lines, depending upon bedroom size. That $200 off cleaning fee, or whatever the discount was on that cleaning fee, outperformed the 25% off, which we found pretty amazing because I was like, for the same time periods, everything was the same. The only difference was the message that went out. And in addition to that, it was like you were going to save more as a consumer, you were going to save more money with the 25% off, but they were stuck on this cleaning fee that was a hard value. So adjusting to something tangible, right? It doesn't always have to be a percentage off or a fictitious free night, because I think consumers probably privy to the fact that, hey, I can increase my price and decrease the price, and you're right around the same, especially if they've been shopping. But if you can do something tangible and just be different, $200 off a cleaning fee, up to $500 off, just depending upon bedroom size and how that works, you have that opportunity. I had another client who did for weekly stays, they were doing mid-stay cleanings instead of giving a discount. They just did a mid-stay cleaning, which was kept the housekeepers in check in getting business, and it didn't have to cost them a percentage off. It was like, I think $20 a night on a weekly stay, depending upon the company that they were using. And it's those types of things, right, that will create that new opportunity, that will get you that exposure, and being different and really identifying what's important to your customer. They also did, a lot of clients are doing more value adds, whether it's late checkout, early check-in, like Maureen was saying, that's a very appropriate use case that sometimes people don't even know. And then also offering free pool heat, right? What can I do to help offset the cost? If you're going to discount anyways, and that's your go-to strategy, what other ways can you give something to the customer that won't cost you 25% off or a percentage off, right? A lot of folks now are also entertaining the name your price, the old Priceline strategy. And I had another client beta test that, and they said, do you know that the client only wanted, at the end of the day, was only like $200 off of a weekly stay, which at that point, I think was less than 5% off, and they got the booking. So again, it's being creative. You got to do something different. You got to implement different strategies. You got to, and play it. The good or bad in this industry is that you can play and with different things and be creative, and it allows you to have that freedom to see what does stick out to your customer, right? And maybe, and back to kind of what Maureen was saying about subsetting that data, does this marketing piece work for your larger homes? What attracts your smaller homes, right? What attracts the homes that are not the base of the mountain, the foot of the lake, on oceanfront? What attracts those that are in the metroplex versus the top of the ski lift or whatever, right? What makes your customer buy? and transact. And it is different if it's a 10-bedroom versus a 3-bedroom. It is different for those that have pets versus not pets. And we didn't even talk about that one, right? That's another opportunity, because how many of you guys have pets now personally? Are you going on vacation and now what are you going to do with your dog? If you have to stay a week somewhere, is it cheaper to bring your pet or is it cheaper to board your pet? Right? So those pet friendly homes can really be attractive to a lot of folks, but we have to look at the data, right? You have to look at organizing your data, which is kind of back to the basics 101 of let's get organized. Let's get the data organized, understand what subsets of product is moving, and then how do we get a creative message out to them, right?
So
And
does,
for that too is just deploying with the marketing team.
yeah. So on that note of marketing, 25% of travelers said that they are going to be using Chat GPT in order to help them with their vacation rental planning. And so one of the recommendations I have in knowing that to people is take a fresh look at your pictures and take a look at your descriptions and make sure, yes, we want all of our descriptions to be SEO friendly, right? So that if people are using keywords and putting in key phrases, that is what is included in your descriptions for your properties. They've also been using ChatGPT to just copy and paste into ChatGPT their current descriptions for their properties and ask ChatGPT to make it more professional, giving the prompt to ChatGPT, you're a traveler coming to the Richmond market and, write this description in a way where it would be, appealing to a traveler coming into this area. And so then ChatGPT can just completely redo your description that you've already have written. So it's just kind of like a refresh on your description, but then also that revising what is in there so that if people are asking ChatGPT, what is the best places that I can go to, that you can have phrases in there like a traveler's favorite or something to that effect where they're able to pull from that content. What other marketing, photo, or other advice do you give your people?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's always good to, review your pictures on your OTA sites, because you want to make sure that you stand out when someone's searching, right? If everybody has a picture of their pool, how can you be different? And then also understand that when someone clicks on your listing, right, we want to think about it. And I know I'm probably old or something, but postcards, right? When you would send a postcard out, and what 5 images, if you could put 5 images on that postcard and send a direct mail piece, right, to an inbox, what would those pictures be? Probably the best 5 pictures of that home, right? If you were making now we're going really back old, a rack card, right? What would be the 5 best pictures of that rack card? That's your OTA landing page, right? That's your online distribution landing page. So when someone clicks on your Vrbo link or Airbnb link and they get on your page, are those pictures the 5 best pictures that you can offer the buyer? It's one thing to have 25 pictures uploaded, right? Because then you get the best listing. But ultimately, when they get to your page, are they the same picture just in 5 different angles? Or are they really selling the home, the best first 5 images? That's how you want to look at that. That's your perspective. Like, why am I doing this? It's because if someone was going to get a postcard, you want them to get it. They get one glance. Is it the best? There's that. Like Maureen said, go through your descriptions, just run through a quick audit. Do you have key phrases? Because as you guys Google, as you guys chat GPT, what are they doing, right? Where are they getting that information? It's from your website. All they're doing is looking for matches of words that are in your site. They're looking for matches in words on your listing. And that's how they're finding it. So it's just like a big control F function, of the internet. So think about it like that. What do you want to convey to customers who are coming to you, right? The other piece of that is a deals page on your website, and it doesn't have to be an offer. It could just simply be an exposure, right? If we want customers to book now for the fall, we need to have something on our website that talks to them about that. I'm sure there are people who are booking, and I'm not sure. There are people who are booking for the fall and winter right now. To Maureen's point earlier, it may not be 1,000 like it was. Maybe it's only 700. How do we get to the 1,000? If we know that 700 are coming, how do I make up that delta? Put something on the website that entertains that conversation. If someone's searching fall getaways right now, are you showing up in that? Do you have something for that customer to look at, whether it's a things to do in the area, whether it is, hey, book your fall getaway today, whether it's fall deals, call us to book, whether it's a value add, anything that it can be. If you guys have explory items and, or includes, every brand tends to do a little bit different of something with amenities. What are those amenities? Put them on there. It doesn't always have to be a deal, as we explained. It doesn't have to be 25% off. It doesn't have to be, a free night. It can just simply be a value add. Get that though on your website so people can see it.
So Des, I just wanted to touch on some of the key performance indicators that people can use to monitor the effects of the changes on the company and the market. And you hear a lot of times people talk in terms of what is a leading indicator and what is a lagging indicator. So a leading indicator is something that we call pace. How are we pacing for something in the future? Now, for example, when I'm looking at data and I'm looking at just the bookings that have come in the last 7 days or so, that is one data point that shows me, am I up or am I down in my bookings in comparison to that exact same week last year? It can be good news or it can be bad news, right? It can be up or down. But that is just like one data point. I would combine that with maybe the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So definitely look at the past 7 days, then maybe look at what happened over the past 30 days. And is there a larger trend there? So that is something that is a leading indicator of something that might be happening later on. If the velocity of bookings is way faster, you're probably in a good position where those bookings are coming in during some time in the future, and it's just a matter of exploring where those bookings are landing. But if you do start to see a trend down in the weekly bookings versus the same week last year, and you continue to see that trend, I normally say 1 data point doesn't make a trend, 3 data points, that's a trend, right? So if you see that, oh, for the past 3 weeks, my bookings have been down, at some point in the future, that's going to show up as revenue not on the books for the month that you're in, right? So it's a matter of identifying that leading indicator that there's a problem somewhere in your future. And then identifying where those bookings are not going into. So what I normally do is I pull up the bookings for the past 7 days, and then I look at where those bookings went into. And if you're using LSI or Key Data or some tool like that, you can look at that. There is an LSI, it is called the pickup report, and it will show you your bookings, your total number of bookings, and then what portion of that is coming in within the next 30 days, within the 31 to 60 day window, and then the further out than 60-day window. And then it will graph for you where those bookings are showing up for future dates. When will they be arriving? And then it will show you what you had last year at that time. So you can quickly and easily identify if there is a section of time where the bookings just aren't coming into, and also a time frame where the bookings aren't coming into. For example, I had a client this past week, their bookings were the same as prior year. However, when I looked at when those bookings were coming into, their 14-day booking window the velocity was super fast. And the outside of that was much slower. Kind of goes back into if people are feeling fear, if there's fear in the market, people will hold out until closer in order to let go of that income, right? And do that spending until they're very sure that they have the money to do that. what kind of leading indicators or what kind of indicators do you use in order to help your people identify in advance timeframes or property types that are struggling in order to help them make changes now so that they can affect that time frame so that when that time comes and goes that they have met their business needs.
Mhm. So being RevMax, we look at revenue. So we always look at the revenue, right? And we look at the portfolio of revenue for the year. And then depending upon market, we can extend that into already next year, right? And getting ready for that. But the revenue on the books, you want to obviously break that down by subgroup, because if you've advanced booked a lot of larger homes, you're going to have more revenue. If last year you were booking a lot of smaller homes and changes in inventory and things like that. So make sure you take that and you subset it out. But ultimately, we're looking at revenue. We're looking at what month that revenue is coming in. And we identify, is it the entire portfolio, is all the inventory in the portfolio performing that same trend, or who's going against the grain, right? And that's where we can quickly identify, hey, it's my larger homes further out that were already booked this time last year that aren't coming back. And why are they not coming back? It could be the non-popular product that is last to book or not booking as much because everybody that is coming wants the premier product, right? In some of those, so you're looking at revenue, you're looking at bookings, at reservations booked. You want to understand where those are coming in and the pickup report and things along those lines. And then ultimately, how to adjust those things, right? What makes sense. And just to snip it, because I know we're running quite to the top of the hour, is making sure that you have a balanced house. And what I mean by that is do a quick audit of your rate positioning, because you want to make sure that you have your larger homes are not priced less than your smaller homes. Your smaller homes are not priced more than your larger homes, making sure that if somebody goes on your website and they say, hey, this home has a pool and it's a 4-bedroom, is that priced lower than just a regular 4-bedroom? And if so, why? Is something wrong with that house? What is so great about the 4-bedroom without a pool? Making sure that you have logic to your pricing. So when a consumer does go to your website, it makes sense. It's an easy upsell, cross-sell, right? If you're noticing that, let's say, for example, your 5 bedrooms are performing very well and your 4 bedrooms are not, is it because people are then buying up? Is it because your 4 bedrooms are too close to your 5 bedrooms? Could you create some separation between those two groups, right? Taking advantage of if you're in RevMax, the occupancy groups, organize your data, look to see where everything's positioned, make sure that it makes sense, and make sure that if somebody calls, right, to you or your res team and they say, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom oceanfront, great. And they say, that's a little expensive. What else do you have for me? And then the agent says, oh, okay, well, I have a 4-bedroom now that's, you're in a better location and prime. And they're like, wait, I don't understand why it's less expensive, right? You want to make sure that your product is positioned and organized correctly or logically. That way it's an easy cross-sell or upsell. It helps show value between the homes against your own website. Like Maureen said, again, if you are your own OTA, right? You want to treat your website just as you would expect your product to be positioned on a Vrbo or an Airbnb or Expedia, etc. So really, it's going to come down to getting the data organized and then using the data to make sure that it's logical, right? And then how do we take advantage of that? And then within RevMax, you have the ability to subset your product and create every strategy literally to its own group, right? If you want your 5 bedrooms to increase in price and your smaller homes to go down in price, you can absolutely do that, right? But it's all about understanding where the need is and then utilizing the system to help leverage that need and execute into the marketplace and make sure then now we're talking about price, right? Once we've done everything else, now we can look at how do we maximize that.
So on the topic of price, just real quick, because I know we're kind of down to the time. If anybody is concerned that you're going to be seeing big fluctuations in price in your marketplace, as the demand shifts. We do have a product that is perfect for that. It's called RevMax Go. It is a dynamic pricing product, and it's really to set it up. It only takes about 15 minutes. Like, it is a very quick process, and it is going to monitor your competitors in the market for similar properties, and it's going to help you to price. You can also put rules on top of it, which I love, through using Max Shield. And so you can layer those two things on in order to get the very best outcome for your company. I just wanted to go to the next slide here. And can you tell everybody how they can find you and me?
Yes. So if you guys still have questions, or, just want to jump on a quick call, you can email myself or Maureen directly, maureen.schilling@getrevmax.com, or Desiree.garcia@getrevmax.com. And we're always happy to help or answer any questions, or, just chat to catch up too. I know it's been a while, but I'm glad we're back in front of the customer. At least me anyway. I know you're here all the time.
Mhm. We do try to have the RevMax webinars at least once a month. I also conduct LSI webinars if you'd like to learn how to use the data system in order to really hone in on the KPIs that are going to help you to monitor your company performance and market performance. Most of the webinars I do are hands-on in the system, showing you click by click where to go and how to do things and the different sort of nuances that you can put in place. So definitely join me for a future webinar. Really happy to have everybody who joined us today. Like I said, this will be recorded so that you can listen to it later if you were only able to jump on for the second half, for example. And we look forward to seeing you next month.